Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and on the other side and on the other end is Pascal Floor, and we're both in lockdown now.
Yeah.
I joined you.
We are prisoners.
Quite literally.
Yeah, it's kind of that, right? No, it's of course it's not this. They sell it as not a severe lockdown as the first one, but of course for people such as you and I who have nothing but the gym, it is very severe after all.
Yeah, it's. I was thinking for you at least, you could quite literally. You don't need to leave the house now. You have your gym stuff at home. You have a walking desk at home.
I could if I were to decide to not go out, because right now I'm just going out when the sun is shining, which is the case here today. It's just lovelier to actually go out on a walk outside instead of at home. Now I have the treadmill, which is amazing, by the way. A very good investment. But the only reason why I'm going out is to pick up some groceries at the moment and to pick up the kids.
Yeah.
So, I could even end up ordering all of the grocery things online, but I would also very much assume that right now, at least in the last lockdown, you couldn't actually book anything home to you anymore because you have to book a time slot, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of totally booked out for like 6 weeks or so. What's
Domino's just text me. They want me to go eat some pizza.
Your pizza is ready?
I get so many texts.
Yeah, I'm in a minicab.
I get like no texts, sorry, but if I get a text, it's from Domino's telling me that there's an offer on, and unfortunately, like you said, I can't.
Right now, I'm getting so many spam calls and so many spam emails because my email and my mobile phone number must have been phished or must have been, some kind of group must have had access to that. I'm getting, and I'm not kidding, like 15 to 20 calls per day. Yeah.
And you answer every single one.
No. I'm answering none of those. I had a mistake though. Like last week, I was expecting the treadmill. So there was a number actually showing up on my screen, which was 033. And the Berlin number, so the district number is 030. And that's why I assumed that it's the logistic company who's actually then in touch or getting in touch with me that they are delivering that one on that day. And that was one of those scam calls. So I basically confirmed that it's me. And now I'm receiving so many calls and so many fucking emails. It's unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like 20 calls per day. And I'm constantly blocking those calls. So in hope that at some point they are running out of telephone numbers to call me, actually. And I'm also trying to not pick it up because hopefully in their system, whatever kind of system they have, it shows up that I'm not picking up calls. And then I really do hope that at some point they just drop me as a possible victim.
I hate phone calls enough, so spam phone calls even worse.
Normally, I never pick up phone calls. Anyway, so I don't know how it's with you, but it's like you got your mobile phone to always be available, right? But I have the feeling that people started to not pick up phones anymore because I don't know why. It's not just me. I know a lot of people who get a call and they don't pick up the phone. They just want to get a text message or something like a voice message over with WhatsApp, same as I am. So when someone is calling me, I'm just thinking like, man, send me a fucking voice message over on WhatsApp because I don't want to actually chit chat with you.
I wonder what that is. Like, why is that? Why do we like, it just feels, I guess for me, like, unless I'm walking around outside, it feels a little bit like, I could be doing this or that. I want to kind of listen to that in my own time. So yeah, WhatsApp voice notes are like a complete game changer. They've been pretty decent.
And do you remember the time when we still had to press down the button the entire time to record it? And then at some point they actually implemented it that you can't just like release the button. The next thing that I want them to implement is like change the speed of the voice messages.
Right. Yeah.
So that you actually can listen to it in 2 times speed.
Yeah, I've had that. Particularly, the worst I've had is when I have competitors. I not obviously, but I give them my WhatsApp, and some of them use it, some of them don't use it actually at all. And I've had them leave voice notes And contest prep voice notes are the longest voice notes known to man. Just like, spit it out, man. I can't understand what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. But how has the first session then gone for you? It was the first session, right?
Yeah, so we went, it happened today. So this is, as we're talking, kind of Thursday, I don't know, the 4th. I think that's what it is.
5th.
The 5th. The 5th. So yeah, I just did, it was actually, my workout was basically almost the same as in the gym. Upper body often is, because I'm using quite a lot of barbell and dumbbell work within my training anyway. So a lot of it was just like for like, but as we were talking about off air, I just forgot how clunky home training can be and how much space is such a premium in that I can't just roll up and like, oh, the rack's completely set up and made perfectly for me and I can just put the weights on comfortably. It's like I have to kind of MacGyver an incline bench because I have to like, I posted about it ages ago where I have to like put a yoga mat on top of the back end of my squat rack so then I can put my bench on top of that, put the other side on a bumper plate so then I can actually incline press and not like destroy my shoulders somehow. So yeah, it was a bit awkward, but I got a good session in. Once I got rolling, I was like super frustrating at first, but then I was like, okay, I can see how as I do this more, I'll get a bit used to it. But going from, and you've probably had this, where you're going from the luxury of just like fully kitted gym and then to like your stuff from home, it's like, oh, yeah, it's not as good as I remember.
Like, I said it to a lot of my athletes that it's a minor inconvenience at best.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, right? First off, it's temporary, and thus we know that we will survive that. Secondarily, it's like you can still get a good training session in from at home. We've talked about it plenty of times during the first lockdown. And that's why you're just kind of spoiled to have access to a proper gym. And that's me. Like, I love going to the gym, not because of the environment, not because of the people there, just because there's plenty of space and there's lots of variabilities in regards to the exercises that you can do. And this is also something, I mean, machines are only a means to an end. They just make your life easier in regards to perhaps hitting certain muscle groups. But is it very much mandatory? No, because the body doesn't really decipher whether you're sitting on an incline press machine or you're doing the incline bench press with free weight. It just senses kind of tension and needs to overcome things with force, and needs, of course, then some force production for it. And that's basically it, right? And we know that there have been thousands and millions of people getting huge with only free weights.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a minor inconvenience, and we have just gotten used to something like that. It's the same thing as the psychology tests. When someone is actually then being given something, and then you take it away from them again, and the life is still the same as it was before you have given it to them. But now they have kind of a different perception of things or different standard now. So let's just assume I'm giving you £1 million, right? And then 5 days later, I come back to you and say like, oh, Steve, there was a mistake. You need to give it back now. You will be miserable just because of the thought that you're now a millionaire, right? But 5 days earlier, you never had those 1 million, right? And that's the same thing. You're now so used to having that gym environment, and going back to something like this feels like a massive step backwards or the worst thing possible. But if you've started like this, that would have been like, oh yeah, shit, this is all I need.
Yeah. What was the kind of term we were using a lot was like new normal. The new normal, it will slowly become the new normal again. And like you said, it hopefully is going to be shorter and we can make do. It's just a case of, keeping consistent. And we're going to, like, I have to. The thing I miss also partly is the going to the gym, like you said, it's like one of the only reasons I leave the flat, and working in the same room. I wonder how you found it actually, although I guess you were before. Oh, you were in your other house, weren't you? So it was a little bit different, but working in the same room is what you have to then train in. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I won't be looking forward to sleepy in here because I will need to at one point, because Charlotte will be, Black Friday is coming, so she has to like wake up like 3 a.m. and do stuff. So we're sleeping in different rooms. Yeah, so I'll be sleeping in here, training in here, and working in here, which will be
doesn't sound too
weird.
bad after all. No,
Yeah,
but
true.
yeah, but that's the good thing about my room here. This is my working area. So having then my training area combined with that isn't that big of a deal, right? Once I'm leaving this room, I know that I'm kind of at home, if that makes sense, right? Before that, my working room was very much too close to everything else. It was kind of in Hugo's sleeping room. And also where I worked out was in our living room. And I think that the connotation there was much, much worse than it is right now, because up here, I'm present and I'm working, right? This is the mindset that I'm having. If I want to relax, I'm going downstairs. That's the beauty about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I forgot actually. I guess it's not similar. I always use these comparisons. I always feel bad because I don't think it's the same.
With Ada, now comes Ada. I knew it.
She has to be in the room when I'm training, but she's all over me when I'm training. I'm just like, fuck off, I can't concentrate.
What is it with dogs when their owners are doing some kind of workouts?
I know. She's so excited. She's just like jumping and licking me. I'm like, I'm going to drop a weight on you and you're going to get crushed. Like, come on. So yeah, it's like we're going to get through this. It's really interesting to see Arnie, my client, who you obviously know, was telling us.
Can you say Arne?
Arne.
Oh yeah.
Is that actually how you say it?
Yeah, Arne.
He should correct me.
You are actually
probably
able to say that. I wasn't sure whether a British guy can actually say like Arne.
My language is my shortcoming. I'm terrible at languages, so that's my excuse. I'll try and remember for Arne, because I've caught. Well, he's known to me as Arnie now.
Yeah, Arnie is cool at it as well. I mean, come on, let's be real here.
What was I going to say?
Who's being called Arnie? Come on.
True. He was just saying the response between like the British like fitness scene to the German fitness scene has been like so interesting, in that a lot of the British scene have like kicked up a fuss about it, and they're trying to claim that it's kind of the wrong thing to do for all these various reasons. Not that it seemed to have done anything, at least in the short term, but it was interesting to see that kind of people actually kind of. But again, I'm in my own little niche, so I don't know if like the general population are really seeing much of it. It was quite cool to see the grenade. Did you see the grenade tank that drove around Parliament?
No, I didn't see that one.
You know the company, like the protein bars grenade? Yeah, Clark Killers.
Jamie Alderson.
I don't know if he's still affiliated with them, but Grenade J, I still remember him as that.
Yeah.
They drove around this like orange tank, and they had like a previous English rugby player like on the tank with it, and like they were like chanting, keep the gyms open and stuff.
They were shooting like protein bars at the Parliament, and it was just like sticking there because of all the fiber and stuff.
Yeah, they're pretty lethal.
Yeah, they are. No, I didn't see that, but I very much appreciate moves like these. This is what democracy is kind of built upon as well, that each minority has their way of actually being heard, whether you like it or not, right? Whether it's your political stance or your political viewpoint or not. Everyone has the right, no matter how small that minority is, to actually being heard. And that's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've seen a few gyms have stayed open today, and just on social media, seeing the police come in and everything. And I guess it was always going to go down that route, and fines and things. So I don't think we'll get the same traction as what happened in Liverpool, and that they retract it. I can't see it happening. And it's a frustrating thing to have, because I was saying to her, like, I don't like making a judgment call based off limited information. Like, before I make a call, I want to see everything, but like we're having to act sooner than what we want to. So it's,
Speaking about political decisions, what about the election? No, I'm not going down that road. I just wanted to make a fuss about that.
On speaking, Biden is like a feather away or something. I don't know what they're saying is. He's very close. 6 electoral
votes by the time of this recording. Nevada, what's up with you? Go ahead and work. Fuck. No,
although Trump's going to sue now.
That's true. No, but let's not go down that route. I think that it is a very, very interesting topic, but way outside of the scope of our practice. And I think that we have gone down that rabbit hole too often, especially during those times of the election. I think that people have very strong feelings towards either one of those parties or contestants, and that's why. Yeah, I rather not want to talk about it right now. Maybe next week.
And so to shift gears, where are you with things? Because I know you've been in a primer phase. Yeah. How many weeks in are you now?
Yeah, it's
how are you feeling?
Third week. Well, end of third week now. I just finished the session here, and I'm still not feeling good. It's weird. I don't know. I have days where I'm feeling very, very good. Such as today, I'm feeling all right. Here in the morning, I'm still waking up with a sore throat, and I'm going to bed with a sore throat. Yesterday evening, I once again had a little bit more of a runny nose, which I didn't experience like a couple of days earlier. And sometimes I'm waking up with a massive headache, and this is happening on a repetitive basis. So I don't know, every second day or so, I'm waking up with a massive headache, and I'm not feeling good overall. I'm not feeling energetic.
How odd.
But I also think that it has definitely to do that I'm still training. It's still inducing a stress on the system. Maybe that stress is too much because I'm still pushing it, right? It's not that I'm just taking a couple of weeks of deload. I'm still pushing it, and maybe it is just too much. And also, the kids are always sick at the moment. So Tony has a running nose as well, and I'm someone I fucking love my kids. Whenever I talk about them, I'm already tearing up. I never loved any kind of person as much as I love my kids, and because of that, because I find them so cute as well, I'm always kind of cuddling them, kissing them, and that of course is a recipe for disaster when they are always sick as well. But I don't care really. I rather want to be constantly sick and give them the love and get kind of the have them close to me, even though that I'm getting sick, instead of not doing it at all and being having that social distance to my kids. I don't know. I think that this is something that I would regret later on in my life. Just because I wanted to stay fresh all the time. I mean, when you look back at my vlogs and just also the Improvement Season podcast, ever since Tony has been born and is also a little bit more active, so going outside and also meeting other people, visiting other people such as his grandma. So he's another source of a potential infectious person around me, right? Same goes for Hugo with being at the kindergarten. But once again, at the same time, I want to spend the time together with them. And for me personally, even though that I've been probably more sick over the past 1.5 years than the entirety of my life together before that, I think it's absolutely all right, and it's absolutely worth it. And I think most of the parents out there, they can probably relate to that training and nutrition, even though that I love this because it's such a huge part of my life, I would easily, in every single moment, give it up for the sake of my kids.
Fast, efficient fat loss. Does that sound like music to your ears? The mini cut movement might just be for you. Mini cuts are like robbing the fat bank. You want to get in and out with as much fat as possible. In a short period of time, you could easily look to lose 6 to 12 pounds of fat. The mini cut movement is excellent. There's group support for extra accountability and also expert help within the group. We have educational videos to keep you on track along the way, and you get all your nutrition and training customized and individualized for you. So if that sounds of interest, get involved with the mini cut movement. I can not relate to it, but I can see that. I could see that. I think I would be the same, just because I think there's probably something quite unique about your own flesh and blood, and
it's crazy. You can't imagine that.
No,
because I thought I know, and I can somewhat relate to that before Tony was born. I mean, Hugo is not my biological son, right? So, and there is clearly a difference to it. And everyone who says otherwise, they are just kidding themselves. Of course, I love him, right? But it is still something different. And that's absolutely all right? And this is something that Katie is very, very well aware of, that I feel that way. We said like, okay, but I will try my very best, and I have to try harder to actually not let Hugo fear that, and give him more attention and more love than I do give Tony because of that fact, right? Which is some kind of side note. But when your kid is born and you want to be a parent, it's not something, because I also know that some people feel miserable afterwards. Can't even fathom how this is possible, but I know that some people, they're just overwhelmed maybe by the fact that they are now parents. They can't take the responsibility or so. But it's something that is the craziest thing that ever happened to me, and probably nothing ever will beat that. Nothing. And funny enough, you talked about Arne, and he just turned or became a father as well. And I said to him a couple of months before the birth of his child, I said, like, wait to the moment that that young blood is being born, and you will see nothing else matters in your life anymore. Nothing else is as important as that individual. An individual that you don't even know, which is so weird and odd, right? But of course, it's also evolutionary inside of you that you are starting then to care for that small individual. And nothing even comes close to that. That's why I would easily give up everything else for that or for those individuals at the moment. And that's why a sickness, every now and then, it's a cost that I'm willing to pay.
It's interesting. It's something I spoke to. It's a podcast that will come out in the future, but one of our regular listeners, Evan Godby, basically talking about how I don't think many people reach a kind of genetic natural limit. I think a lot of people reach a lifestyle limit, in that you get older, you have more priorities, business, kids, like relationships, and you need to commit even more and more over time, because when you get advanced, there's even less progress you can make. So then juggling all of that, I think loads of people reach a lifestyle limit. And I think great, like luckily for you, our career is quite amenable to things. Yeah. But I imagine if you were working like a standard like 9 to 5 or a lot of jobs, if you're looking to progress like 9 to 6, 7, you wouldn't have, and then you have kids, like where would you find the time to put into it, especially like twice daily training? It wouldn't be on the cards at all. So
and I'm so grateful for that privilege. Like honestly, I'm saying it all the time to Katie, that or being able to have or be there for your kids, because normally in our Western society, it is still the norm that the man in the household is working most of the time. So Katie has only a 32-hour job as well. It's 32 hours. It's still a lot though. And I know people who are only working then 20 hours. So moms who are only working 20 hours. And then the father is like working 50, 60 hours per week. And they only see the kid like maybe 1 hour in the morning and 1 or 2 hours in the nighttime, right before bedtime. And I feel so grateful for the opportunity to see them grow up, and especially during the time of the lockdown, right? To be able to go downstairs or like in the old apartment, just like leave my office, be there just like for 10, 15 minutes and go back again.
Yeah.
There aren't many people who have that privilege, and I'm super grateful for that, especially coming from a household where both parents never have been present. My parents were always working because they owned a restaurant. There were times where I didn't see them, and I was a small child, right? And this is something that I'm so grateful for, that it's not like that in our household.
Yeah. I'm going to shift gears again, because I think that was a nice discussion, but to keep it a little bit related to next steps for you.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Have you come to, I guess you don't need to come to a conclusion yet. You're still coasting, waiting for the illness to pass, and then you can make a call of what makes sense.
So as long as I feel the way I do, I'm continuing the style of training that I have right now. So basically lower volume, which is not the same as the primer phase we are normally prescribing because of the equipment that I have at home. So what I do is still I'm working out in the hypertrophic rep ranges, but with lower volume. So only like 2 or 3 sets or so, right? And the proximity to failure somewhere around, on average, also 1 to 2. Right? This is normally what I'm doing right now, so that I feel like I've induced a hypertrophic stimulus, such as, for example, yesterday I've done my legs and I was walking down the stairs and I could tell like, okay, yeah, they feel a little bit jiggly, and that's why I know that I've probably induced a sufficient amount of hypertrophic stimulus. Something in that ballpark, right? Nothing that actually beats me up too much, nothing that causes me to overreach, nothing that leaves me just like crippled the next days. Something where I'm just feeling like, yeah, this is something that I easily recover from, maybe even recover more from. So you're inducing enough of a stimulus that you are disrupted maybe the next day, but then the second day you're already feeling good, where normally you need 3 days. And then over time, it adds up so that you're feeling better and better over time. And yeah, this is what I'm doing right now. This is the plan for now, up until the point where I'm feeling better. And then I am actually, and this is something that you said, like, okay, you don't need to actually name it as of yet, but probably I'm going to start a contest prep, but I will do it like this because I'm still not entirely certain whether I want to prep next year. There are so many competing reasons as to why. For me personally, the biggest reason is to compete with you. We've wanted it since like 2017. Right? We've tried it once and twice, and both times it didn't really work out. And I think that it would be absolutely amazing to do it the next year. And also I have a couple of my athletes competing next year. Very, very, very high caliber of athletes, I would like to say. And it would be amazing to take that journey, not only together with you, but also together with them. Also, for those individuals to go through the process together with them in keeping each other accountable, right? So the pain of suffering is so much less severe when you do it together, in my opinion. And there as well, when the clients see, oh, my coach is going through the same thing, and he tells me like, get your shit together, then there's probably something to it, instead of being like, you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't know or how I feel like at the moment, right? Because you're sitting there, fat piece of shit, in the off season, maybe zipping on some kind of high calorie drinks because you are so satiated. No, it's then the other way around. That's why so many compelling reasons for me personally to compete next year. But because I always said like I'm not entirely certain whether I want to compete 2021, I'm starting a diet, like 12, 16 weeks, see where I'm at, maintaining maybe a little bit, and then either go for it or go back into a gaining phase. And I think that this is the best option, or the best way to go about it right now because of the uncertainty around it.
And that's fair. I think you'll know in that time. I mean, you'll probably know before that amount of time whether or not it's this year or what have you. And yeah, it's from what I've seen, the BMBF was meant to be this weekend. So the other UK Natural Federation, and that got moved, and it's got moved to the start of December now.
Because I didn't hear anything from that anymore, but also I didn't go out and checking up on it. But yeah, that now makes sense. Yeah.
So hopefully that still goes ahead, but I'm hoping none of that, like there's just much more certainty next year, which I guess relies upon a vaccine becoming available or herd immunity, if that's possible with this anyway.
Going down a different road hole here. Huh?
I'll just say a small amount on my mini cut. I'm probably going to do.
No one wants to hear about you, Steve.
I just had a few points.
Tunes in to listen to my stories.
I had a few points on my mind. One is I'm only going to do one more week, I think, and then the other one was just, it's interesting to me. Like mini cuts, really nice because they remind you what cutting is like. Yeah, and some things, like it's been smooth, but some things I definitely noticed quite readily. Libido comes down quite quickly for me. Okay. Not non-existent, just it comes down from like a level to a new level. I'm like, interesting. And then what was the other thing I noticed? I need to sleep more. I don't know if that's partly related to the time of year because it's winter, so it's darker for longer, and I don't know, maybe there's some circadian...
the clocks have changed just recently.
Clocks changed. But yeah, I'm like falling asleep. I can't even make it to 10 p.m. and then quite often waking up at like sometimes my alarm's waking me up at 10 to 7. Normally I'd wake up like at 6 a.m. before my alarm, and like I could stay awake till 10:30. So I don't know if that's dieting and I need more sleep, or
would you assume that this is the case? All these symptoms that they are kicking in as quick as they have because of your level of leanness still?
Maybe partly down to the level of leanness. I guess also the aggressiveness, like it's a 1,000 calorie deficit or so. Yeah. It's probably come down a bit because I adapt quite quickly, so it's probably not quite 1,000 anymore maybe. And even actually looking at my Fitbit, my resting heart rate was at 55 beats per minute on average. It's come down to like 49, 48, so that quickly comes down. So, but I feel still pretty energetic, like I feel fine in the gym.
But you cut it short, right? I mean, cut it short. You end the mini cut earlier because you are actually losing at a very, very aggressive pace, and you are looking better than first anticipated after that time.
So yeah, I had planned in 5 weeks at this time for a mini cut, but I'm frustrated with myself. I wish I don't know, maybe I give myself a hard time, but I'm still frustrated with myself that I didn't push calories even more when I was gaining, because I gained at the slower end of the rate of gain and so the reason I need less of a mini cut is because I just gained less body fat because I gained less total weight. So yeah, I want to be a little bit more on top of my weigh-ins when I'm in my massing phase next time, just being like, is it going up? No, more, like keep going, because for me I have to stay on top of it, otherwise I'll start maintaining on and I'll still feel like shit and eating loads, and I'll be maintaining. I'm just like, no, go more. Like it's uncomfortable even maintaining, so just make it a little bit more uncomfortable and be in that surplus. So yeah, I think it's shorter just because I thought I might be like 195 pounds, but I was like in the 190, so I had a few less pounds.
No, cool. And training is still all right though. I mean, you're not suffering the consequences or feeling the consequences of now the severe deficit?
Not yet. It's been smooth, like touch wood. The only other thing I noticed was actually my legs flatten out really quickly. Okay. But they get leaner, so there's probably fat loss going on, of course. But they really look like, I look at them and I'm like, man, they look small. But yeah, training had been going okay. My pushing movements, maybe a little tougher. It's going to be tough because I'm transitioning everything to at home, so it's hard to kind of show it. So I'll just do the last week at home and push everything to like pretty much failure, or like close to. So it'll be enough, and then I'll have to just create the new mesocycle from home, I guess. So should be smooth enough. I'll have to high bar squat. I'm going to miss the hack squat. It's like become my love.
Yeah, it's just an amazing machine. I will ever build that one. He needs an award.
Mr. Hack.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll do the wall squats. I remember really liking them, but I'm either
I did them also for demonstration purposes for one of my athletes, and they fucking suck. I mean, suck in the sense of
in a good
that
way.
They are so challenging because of the sticking point, the mid portion of the lift, because you can't really shift the hips backwards. So you can't really push the hips back. Right, which normally is the case, at least for me, because my lower back wants to actually kick in just a little bit, right? So you can't really push your hips back, and that's why the sticking point becomes so much harder, because you actually stay upright and then have to push up solely by your quads.
It's actually very similar to a hack squat. Probably a bit less smooth because of if you do them with a foam roller, I guess it could be quite smooth. But yeah, with a towel, it's just like, fuck.
I've done it with, so there's, here in the background, there is kind of the bat, and the wall of the bat is like very, very smooth. And I was wearing like a compression shirt from Nike, which is also like a slippery surface. And that went very well, actually. So no towel, no foam roller. And I think that this is the way to go about it. But I got very hot under that compression shirt very quickly.
You just don't want like any splinters.
Yeah, that's true.
Or like friction, like fire or burn or something.
But I don't think that I'm moving that fast.
No, yeah, good. Should we get to questions then?
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. So the first question is from Roman Garm, and he has asked, do you think we need movements like the bent over row that target the whole back for maximum hypertrophy, or can we split our back training into, i.e. mid-trap, rhomboid, and lat-specific movements like Coach Kassem teaches with N1? In other words, do I miss out on gains if I only train with specific, more isolated movements?
So my first thought is, sure, you can do that. I don't see that there's anything wrong with that approach other than the time investment that you then have to commit to the entirety of the thing. And also keep in mind that every exercise causes some fatigue. And if you're now splitting things up into different muscle groups, right? And so let's just bring up your example, like mid-traps, rhomboids, and lat specific movements. Now you already do 3 different movements with perhaps like 9 sets. Let's just take the common approach of like 3 sets per muscle group, right? Now you have like 9 sets in comparison to perhaps only like 3 sets for something like the bent over rows, which takes much, much less time. It's perhaps even as efficient and thus causes also less systemic fatigue because you're only doing something like 3 sets. Perhaps you need to do 1 additional set or 2 additional more sets. Still, you will end up with less sets for the same outcome maybe. And I also think that I can't really prove that, or I can't really, maybe this is just like a thought I have, or like being absolutely biased, but I just do think that there's something about heavy compound lifts that you can't get with machines, unless it's a hack squat machine, of course. But yeah, I just think that if you are trying to go down the isolated route, I think that you will miss out on something. That's just my gut feeling that it's now speaking instead of like hard research. But I simply don't think that it's the best investment of your time, and also you are still ending up with perhaps higher systemic fatigue overall instead of just doing like something like the bent over rows. And how sustainable is it over the long term if you need to invest maybe triple the amount of time for the same outcome?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are quite similar in that sense, that I do think there is something to the compound heavy lifts where they're like something, maybe it's the total body like homeostatic disruption that it causes, and there's something to that. Again, it's like there's not a strong kind of rationale necessarily behind that, but you see a lot of kind of the biggest bodybuilders tend to do that sort of thing, and they don't just hyper focus on isolation based movements. I can see how someone could argue like that they could do that, and potentially that could be better for them. Maybe for someone more advanced, that could be a case. But and I think you're the same, Pascal, a little bit of a combination. So you don't like just do your bent over row, but you might do a bent over row, and then maybe for someone more advanced, some shrugs or some like rear delt work, some additional work, because you can appreciate from that extra volume. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the like really strict isolation, like you can't bring in other muscle groups, like you should only, like I guess it's the active range of motion argument where you should only use the active range for that muscle group. I like the idea that you can use the full range of motion for that exercise and get the most bang per buck for that entire exercise, unless you're maybe trying to really bring up a weak point and you have to be hyper focused on bringing that up. So that would be, yeah, my only additional thoughts.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an analogy, but I really can't come up with one at the moment, unfortunately. I think that there's probably a very, very good one for this one. But yeah, I think everything has been said.
I was really trying to think of an analogy now, but I can't. It's like, do you want it? No, I can't think of one. Yeah. So we're going to the next question. William Young asked, I'd personally love an in-depth discussion on resensitization primer/maintenance phases. I'm new to the podcast and group, so if this has been done before, I apologize, and I appreciate the point in the right direction.
Yeah, William, for this, we have actually created the Primer Phase ebook, so feel free to go over there and purchase it over to our website. It's only $14.99, I think $19.99 for the audio book version, so you get the audiobook together with the ebook. It could be a little bit higher of a price, I'm not entirely certain. Sometimes it could be that it was the sale price or so. But anyway, you get the entire ebook where we are talking about that. Also, we have a presentation over on our membership site. So if you don't want to purchase the ebook or so for $6.99 for a month, the Prima Phase presentation is over there as well. So I think that these are better resources than us now talking about it for like 5 minutes. That doesn't really give you as much of an in-depth answer as these presentations or the ebook can. So yeah, I would just refer you to that, to be honest.
I want to actually reread the Prima Phase ebook, because I remember when we wrote it, I was really satisfied with some of the things that were in there, that, just because they don't get discussed.
I also know that we've said like that there's not much evidence that, I think that we even said that there's no evidence that actually backs this, or like studies backing our claims. But now there is, and that's a great thing that we could incorporate there as well.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Well, true. Cool. So the next question, it looks long. So Scott Murray McDonald has asked a long question. I had asked this before, the mic Q&A, but it was a short one, so I thought I'd just ask again. But what are your thoughts on reverse dieting? However, instead of increasing calories back up to maintenance, if a client has increased energy output to such a high level through formal cardio and NEAT without manipulating calories, that you keep calories as they are, but taper down the energy expenditure instead of somewhat of a reverse cardioing. Lol. Would body composition changes and overall results be the same, seeing as you are still just manipulating the energy balance equation, or would G-Flux play a role in that you'd likely look better maintaining the higher output but bringing calorie up to match?
Very interesting question. And first and foremost, I want to talk about the G-Flux idea. So the G-Flux idea has been popularized by John Berardi in our realms, so precision nutrition, and then other people have actually looked more so into that as well. And I think that Jackson Pios even looked a little bit closer into that. However, there are a couple of studies that we can look at, such as observational data from the Hadza, so a hunter-gatherer group that is very, very active, but they are not very much consuming much more calories than we do. Also, when it then comes to the body composition and just like consuming more calories and having a better body composition, I think that there may probably be something to it, because we can look at professional athletes, and this is where this idea is coming from as well, that I think someone who expends like 4,000 calories on a daily basis, who is very active, will have a better body composition most likely than the one who is only maintaining things on 2,000 calories. However, is it because of the G-Flux, or is it because they are more active? Because they are now in a necessity of carrying more muscle mass for the task that they are doing. And that's why they are actually having a better body composition instead of them, the concept behind the G-Flux. So when it comes to G-Flux, I wouldn't really think about it in that kind of regard. So we don't really have enough evidence, that's what I want to say, in order to support the idea behind G-Flux. It's a compelling idea, but I think if you solely rely on that, you will probably shoot yourself in the foot, because then you're trying to just like jack up the amount of activity that you're doing and end up just inducing more stress to the entire system, because each and every single activity is stress to the system. Right? And it can even be that you just like jack it up in the hope that you can get away with eating more, while basically not making any kind of progress in the form or in the field where you want to make the progress. So with that being said, in regards to then reverse dieting, whether it's a good idea to just like decrease the cardio, thing is that when it comes to adding cardio or taking cardio away, we never know how much we really expend when it comes to cardio. That's why I don't think it's a good variable to have and try to manipulate too much. So when you are then trying to lose weight and you want to decrease the, decrease the calories or increase the energy expenditure, what's probably more accurate to do? It's, of course, decreasing the caloric consumption coming from food, because tracking 200 calories from ingesting that is so much easier than the expenditure, because there are so many other variables that come into play there as well that we are not aware of. So that's why when you are coming out of a caloric deficit, you're probably very efficient in burning calories. That means this is not a good thing. You don't want to be efficient at that, because then you are not burning as much calories as you want to. You want to be inefficient. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's actually what you want to be. And in that instance, it's like when you're coming out of a caloric deficit and you're just reducing the cardio, you are playing with a variable that you can't really control. So yes, you're probably expending less energy, but how much is it really? And you don't really have any kind of big control over that. And while I'm not the biggest fan of reverse dieting anyway, because you're just like spending more time in a caloric deficit instead of then reversing and trying to get back into a caloric surplus as quick as you can in the most efficient manner. Now introducing even a variable that you can't or don't have as much control over as the caloric intake or expenditure in the form of the caloric consumption is, I think, not the best way to go about it. I hope that wasn't too complex.
I think the G-flux thing, like you said there, that is become a little bit of a buzz, kind of like people are like very fascinated by it, and like this sort of question leads into that kind of fascination. So I think your answer there is like a very good one. It's interesting because a lot of the things even discussed here are not things we would advise, like reverse dieting wouldn't typically advise that. Having really high cardio output wouldn't really advise that generally. So yeah, it's one of those very theoretical things for us to answer anyway. And I imagine, just to simply answer his question, like in my head, I'd just be like, I think for someone who's a competitor, it'd be much of a muchness. If you're actually just bringing someone to maintenance, whether that was through down-regulating cardio or increasing food, probably much of a muchness. However, actually, if someone's doing a lot of cardio, you could maybe even argue against the G-flux and be like, well, now they've got more energy for training, so maybe now their training's even better. But again, we can only theorize these things. So yeah, I think your answer was solid.
I think it's a good thing to think about as well, because we also know from scientific literature that some people are actually subconsciously then moving less once they had a huge energy expenditure or energy bow where they just like went all out. And this needs to be taken into consideration as well. You can't just like always give it your all, because then you always run on low fuel, to be honest. And is that really the most productive way of not just doing things, but also the best way of living? I would say no.
I think that's why there's like everything, there's an MRV for everything. So you certainly don't want to be maximizing those things, because it's going to take away from your weight training at some point. So I just don't like people to become less active than like 5,000 steps. If people are less than that, I'm like, I'd like to see you getting like 5,000 at least. And most people I end up training are training 4 times a week with pretty high volumes. And so I think that's a sufficient amount for health, and then calories do the rest. And then if we need to include more steps or cardio, that's as limited as we can, because like you said, there's diminishing returns, particularly after like a certain point, and it starts taking away from the stimulus of training, which is ultimately super important for whatever goal for a physique competitor. So yeah, hopefully we kind of answered that question in some sense.
Absolutely.
Next question is from Makoto Tomizawa. So great name. Have either of you ever experimented with having more calories earlier in the day or later at night with the same overall calorie and macro intakes? And have you noticed any difference and or whether benefited from one over the other in terms of performance, mass gain, fat loss, general feeling, sleep, etc.? Thank you.
In regards to performance and stuff, not really. At least not when we are speaking in a vacuum about like a normal state of, let's say, gaining, because you don't want to be in the majority of the time in a caloric deficit. I think that then you will probably feel a difference, especially once you're getting leaner. and we are speaking specifically about contest prep athletes, there I think even it becomes more important about nutrient timing even, which is not really much of a concern when you are gaining. And I'm even someone who isn't as hungry in the morning. I could easily go into like midday without eating something. But I'm someone who tends to get hungrier towards the end of the day. That doesn't change if I'm eating earlier and I'm consistently eating earlier. I'm still a little bit hungrier by the end of the day. And I don't know why that is the case. Probably Greg Potter has any kind of answers on that around the circadian rhythm or so, that this plays a role in that as well for certain individuals, that they are just like having a better or bigger ghrelin response in the evening times than others, and maybe also from an evolutionary perspective. I don't know. I really can't answer why that may be the case. I can only speculate at the moment. But in terms of performance, it really has never made that much of a difference. In terms of fat loss, yes, because I think that something like intermittent fasting can be a handy tool for many, many people in a fat loss phase. In a gaining phase, yes, also because when you're spreading out your meals more evenly, I think that there's a just more beneficial outcome overall for your well-being, the way you feel. You don't feel bloated. If you have everything just like in a tight eating window, I always felt like garbage when I eat too much, just due to postprandial period and the response that the body is going through. You feel like sleepy, tired, bloated if you're eating too much at the same time, and having a well-distributed meal pattern is most of the time better, in my opinion, in a gaining phase. And sleep, something that is close to bedtime, but not too close to bedtime. Because in the past, especially in a cutting phase, I was always suffering from big insomnia when I was too lean or trying to maintain too lean of a physique. And I always got up in the middle of the night to eat something. And this is probably because I also ate too early in the day, like my last meal, and then it left me hungry in the middle of the night. But if I had one meal too close to bedtime, we also know that this can have a detrimental effect on the overall quality of sleep. So many different answers to different questions that you had. But yeah, I don't. So in general, I don't really think it makes that much of a difference when it comes to when you are eating like a normal human being.
I think you may have a better answer than me, because I've been thinking it through, and I'm like, basically, no. For me, in my mass gaining phases, apart from right at the start, I am just on a mission to get in as much food as possible. So the actual biggest thing that's helped me is allowing myself to eat when I have an appetite and not stuffing myself when I don't. So whilst the Chrono kind of nutrition standpoint suggests better to have front-loading your food, and I think there's decent evidence to suggest that. Since talking to Greg about it, he seems very kind of optimistic about how strong that research is, and I think I trust him on that, because I haven't read the research myself, but he has. I can't front load my food in a mass phase. I can have a bit of food in the morning, just about, but I'm best after training. Once I've trained, then my kind of the gates open up and I can start consuming much more. So
the anabolic gates.
Yes, kind of like that in a weird way. And then when I'm cutting again, and when I'm gaining and cutting, I literally have the same meal pattern. I just spread it through the day, and that's because of like for years I've just done it for protein reasons, to kind of keep MPS as elevated as possible throughout the day. Theoretically, should be able to help. So when I'm cutting, because you're on such little food anyway, I haven't seen a huge difference. And I think the difference, like you said, when we look at like the pyramid of where nutrient timing is, it's right up there. It's not a huge percentage of the overall change in your physique. So, and most of that, I would argue, comes from protein timing. So then the rest, like when you're cutting, you're not on tons of fat anyway. When you're kind of cutting, your carbs aren't super high. Placing them around your training, I will say I've done that for years anyway. And I would say I've maybe emphasized that more in the last few years, and I think it probably has helped, but I can't quantify it by any means. So it's really hard, because I've never like done an awful job at it and then done a really good job at it, or like really skewed it one way to another way. I will also mention, just I think my sleep improved when I did try and eat less pre-bed. I think it did. But I can't, like, I'm just in the thick of it, and looking over my kind of thoughts and feelings of those periods of time, it improved. But I don't have any like data to necessarily back that up necessarily. But I would also say when cutting, it's really nice to have something like close to bedtime, rather than leaving it like loads. But even if it's, for me, if it's like an hour, 2 hours, if I have a decent protein feeding at that time, I'm pretty satiated through the night. But there's probably individual differences there as well. And I normally do actually put quite a bit of fat in my evening meals as well, just because I keep fat lower through the day. I don't know why necessarily. So yeah, unfortunately, no. But I guess that makes sense because of where nutrient timing lands within the pyramid, that we wouldn't expect to see big differences when we're pretty much nailing it, and we have been for many years. So we haven't kind of experimented to a significant degree. I guess you did intermittent fasting, which I've never tried. So
yeah, in the past though it was intentional, and then over the years it was. So I'm right now always having some breakfast anyway, right? It's not that I'm doing intermittent fasting anymore, if you want to call it that, because I'm getting up in the morning, I'm having my coffee, going on a walk, and then coming back home, having my whey shake, and actually going to train. That's not really intermittent fasting because I'm consuming a decent amount of protein alongside with that. And then afterwards, I'm having breakfast with my family. So I can't really say how it would be for me at the moment, whether it would make a difference, but I feel like the way I'm eating now, at least, is the best I have ever eaten before. Because the thing is that I matured in the way I actually now consume food. In the past, I always tried to avoid hunger, try to play a lot with volume. I always felt gassy and bloated. I never felt good, to be honest, or the majority of time I felt bad. Now looking back in hindsight, and this is because I tried to manipulate too many things, and I didn't really eat, to be honest, like an adult. I was just trying to manipulate too many things because I was either too afraid of hunger, or I don't know. I wanted to squeeze calories in where they simply didn't fit normally. I just wanted to make it happen to have something sweet, and this just ended up with me feeling bad most of the time.
I can see that. And I think just one thing I would say is, I don't mean to downplay it, because I have had, even just recently, Mike Chalice, our physio, he was telling me how his sessions in the morning weren't feeling all that great, and he was feeling maybe really, really hungry and actually a little bit lightheaded towards the end. And I just said, like, he's training fasted first thing, basically. And I was like, chucking an intra workout. And it made a big, big difference for him. He was like, way more energy, hunger pangs at the end of the session weren't as bad. So it definitely can play a role. But if you're abiding by the general rules of thumb of like nutrient timing, experiment with those and see if they do make a difference for you. So yeah, that was just one example where I've definitely, like, I was just like, man, have some carbs. You're going to feel so much better for it. And he was like, you're right, I did.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I've had clients where they've kind of done a bit of that, not eating like an adult and like really like dieting through the day, but they're in a surplus, and then like backloading all their calories. And I'm just like, dude, that's not ideal.
Man, and I can even tell some stories where it's just like I was on a cutting phase, and I always wanted, and that was the time before there were things such as Halo Top or Briars or Uppo, where I wanted to desperately have a pint of ice cream per day. And that was during a time where one pint was around 1,000, 1,200 calories, and I still consumed it. And I had then to squeeze everything else around that. And that wasn't fun at all, but I wanted that. And just something like that, if you're only consuming like 2,000 calories per day, and 2,100 is 1,200 is coming from an ice cream. Do I really need to say anything else? That is not eating like an adult. And I see it all the time that people are just trying desperately to hold on to things, while in reality, it simply doesn't fit their macros. And it's a hard pill to swallow for some. because some people can get away with that and some people can't. And I just, so this is fully going from being that kind of if it fits your macros. I've never been like if it fits your macros, but going from this to more so of a bro. And I'm feeling so much better with it. Like nearly each and every single meal is actually wholesome foods, or like very much well distributed macro composition, not too big in volume. And I rather have like 4 to 5 meals now instead of like 2 to 3 massive meals where I'm then also squeezing in like highly palatable things because I want to.
No, well said. I think there's probably still some listeners that might. It's a very appealing route to go down, but short term, because long term, like you said, you feel better, way better now. Yeah. It just takes a bit of transitioning to get used to. So yeah. Embrace
the potatoes.
Have you been eating many potatoes lately?
No, I needed to actually. So sounds hypocritical because I just talked about like eating more like a bro, but I was eating a lot of, not a lot, but each and every single day like a bowl of cereals as well, because I needed something palatable, because otherwise I couldn't get the calories in.
Yeah.
I had a very hard time otherwise, and that's why once per day a bowl of cereals, that does the job.
So less potato, more cereal. I mean, in my mass, basically all my carbs came from cereal.
Yeah.
And so I just exchanged that for oats.
Yeah.
I find potatoes too much of a faff at the moment, so I'm too lazy.
Right now it's just like just 2 or 3 days ago, I was making myself pudding oats, not in the way I've done it in the past, but more so like I was doing cooked oats and I was just like pouring the vanilla pudding powder in it, because I thought like, why not? Let's just give it a try. So not in the sense like I did it in the past where it was just like huge volume, right?
You
just added the powder of the pudding pulver. Just added the pudding powder. And I actually tasted it and I was just like, I can't eat this. I can't eat this. So had another spoon. I honestly can't eat this. And Katie was just sitting next to me. She was just like, let me just taste it. Gave it to her. She was just like, I can't eat this as well. And then I needed to actually, throw it away. And I before I'm throwing away food, something severe needs to happen. I'm more so that type of guy who just eats his way through it, even though that he doesn't really like it or enjoy it, rather than throwing food away. And this I couldn't. I think it's just like perhaps my body fat settling point, or I have been gaining for too long of a time to then just like devour through something like that. And I couldn't eat something like that. And I know that in the past, I would have probably in a caloric deficit, especially like been, holy shit, this is the best shit in the world.
It's crazy how quick taste buds change. That's something else I can say with this mini cut. I couldn't eat a bowl of oats when I was massing. I would just be like a few mouthfuls. I'd be like, my body is rejecting this now. Whereas now I can eat just like water, oats, some salt. It's fine. Absolutely good. I can eat that.
Yeah. Cool. So shall we give away, or shall we go to the giveaway?
Oh, yes.
So let me share my screen with you guys. Let's go over here. Can see that, right?
Yeah.
So let's go over to the video. 175 of the Improvement Season podcast. Can you still progress if load stagnates? And I think we talked about no, that's the wrong one, right? We've been at episode 176, Improvement Season.
Because it was the pump.
Sorry for that one.
Was it the pump or my muscle connection? Yeah.
My muscle connection, wasn't it? Man. Once again, so no, it was 175. I thought it was the mind muscle connection, but someone was talking about animes. Oh, it was just perhaps.
We probably brought it up.
Yeah. So here it is. No, it's absolutely all right. So going over to the comment picker, copy paste 26 total comments, and let's see. Oh, they changed the style here. See, Steve, Trevor, my man Trevor, once again.
Trevor won again.
Oh God, Once again, he gets a free membership. Fucking hell. So best my muscle connection is the back. Been that way since I started trading. Wow, that is not common, to be honest. Worst is probably rear delts. But even then, at this point, I feel I have at least a decent amount of muscle connection with all muscle groups with a handful of exercises. And yeah, I mean, the thing is that, Trevor, I know that you're working very, very hard and been training for a longer period of time. This is something that probably took a while to get there, to actually build that mind-muscle connection or proper mind-muscle connection for nearly all of the muscle groups. And the same goes for me. I'm now at a point where I can hit nearly each and every single muscle group the way I want to, from different angles, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Trevor, reach out to us again. Congratulations again.
The only comment I had on that was
cheapskate.
If he reaches out, he's a cheapskate. We know that.
Yeah.
For me, it's interesting. Some muscles I find in the movement, there might not be the best mind muscle connection, but after it, I'm like, oh yeah, I hit that. Like I was just doing like cable lateral raises and cable rear flies. During, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's an okay mind muscle connection, but afterwards, I was like, oh. Like they felt pumped and big, so it's interesting. But anyway, do you have a question this week, or shall I shoot mine?
I should actually come up with one, right? I can't think of it.
I don't. I'm hoping we haven't asked this one. I have one in my head, and it's related.
No, well, I know one. Yeah, I know one. What's the? How should I phrase it? What's the most fucked up thing? Is not what I want to say, but what's the worst thing that or the worst food habit that you can think of that you've done in the past?
This is basically what I was going to ask.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The weirdest diet food, I was going to say. So yeah.
Okay, let's put it that way.
Fucked up diet habit. Yeah, that's a good one.
Exactly. The weirdest diet food or food habit that you've done in the past, or maybe still doing.
Or doing currently, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Guys, thank you so much for listening.
Guess I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge. And I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.